Go. Sorry.
Hey, Mr. Shapiro.
Alright, so
Wait, what are your names?
Oscar.
Nina.
Diana.
Boss. Ale.
Gabby.
Andres.
Okay,
This is the Zen and Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
video post.
Okay, so I think the first thing we should talk about is everyone's opinion on the book. I really like the book. I just finished part 1, and I'm a really big fan of all the philosophical input, and I really enjoyed how we got more of a understanding of Freitas and his relationship with the narrator
At the end of it.
at the end of part 1.
I don't really like it that much, probably because I really liked Atlas Shrugged, and so I'm still kind of like in a very Atlas zone, I guess. And so everything I'm reading, it's so different from Atlas Shrugged. It's like not even the same like style of writing. Like she's very indirect. He's very indirect compared to her, like with his characterization. But then he's more like vague about like what he's trying to say, and so you have to kind of like interpret it. So it's like getting me a while to like adjust to it. But so far, it's not exactly my type of book.
Yeah, like I agree, like because it's so different from Alice, I didn't like it at first, but now that I'm getting farther into it and stuff is actually happening, and you kind of like learn to read into what he's trying to say to you, the author, and then I'm liking it more now as I get into it.
I actually liked it in the beginning. I liked the descriptions of the natural setting, how he looks around and he sees only trees and he's one with nature. And I like that idea. Another type of philosophy that he introduced was that the journey is very important to actually appreciate the ending or the means to the end. And I actually like that saying.
Yeah, thus far, I really like the book. I really like Atlas Shrugged and how direct Rand was at times, but I also like this book because it gives the reader a chance to fill in the gaps in his own unique way. You know, Rand was very straightforward through her characters about her opinion and whatnot, whereas Persig is more of a gives you room to contemplate what he's trying to say and put your own twist on what his meaning towards these philosophical ideas that he's bringing.
Yeah, I agree with Oscar because it's very un-Rand-like, where Rand just, repeatedly just kept trying to force an ideal onto you, and it was very straightforward, but it was just so repeated that... Take a quick break here. It was just so repeated that I just got angry with her. It's like, okay, I get the point. While in Zen and Motorcycle Maintenance, it's a lot more condensed. It's, a lot of deeper thoughts, but...
He's not as like repetitive.
Yeah, he's not as repetitive, and it's more thought provoking. Ayn Rand was just okay, here's what I believe in. Let me shove it into your mind for 1,069 pages. While here it's just a lot of ideals on life and lets you take your own opinion from it, and I really enjoy that.
I think also something interesting about Zen is like there's a lot of foreshadowing in here, but I'm nervous to like say some of the things that I expect because I feel like I might be like completely and totally wrong because like.
Taking another short break. Apologies.
Please stop.
Keep talking.
Alright,
I'm sorry, I lost my train. What was I saying?
Foreshadowing.
Oh, foreshadowing. So like I would expect something like when they first introduced that Chris is like mentally unstable. I was like, oh, that's something's gonna happen there. And then I was like, well, maybe the mom is also unstable, but like they still haven't really mentioned her, so I'm confused why she didn't go on the trip with them. And
Okay, I'm sorry. Did I cut you off?
no, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, it confuses me why Chris is there with his dad, and yet the dad and Chris don't have a close relationship at all, even though you'd expect they would. Like when Chris talks to his dad and they talk about the ghosts, or they talk about, his stomach pain, the dad just always kind of ignores him and shakes it off, or just gets releases a bunch of anger, and then he just kind of goes away.
I feel like they're actually really similar characters in the play.
They're so similar that it drives them apart.
I feel like
they just get fed up with each other.
That might be the purpose of the trip then, at least from
To try to get
the
closer?
narrator's perspective, to try to get closer with his son, and maybe is dealing with the whole mental instability is too realistic, like it's too there, while just taking a trip cross country, looking at the sights, and maybe repairing his motorcycle every once in a while helps keep his mind off the actual reality, which is a lot tougher than just reassembling an engine.
What do you think is going to happen with the relationship by the end of their journey?
I really Oh, sorry, I thought she was asking me. No,
I was asking everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, you go.
Gabi, go.
Okay. So I think that like like Phaedrus is like, I don't know like what he is yet. I'm super confused about that. But I think that he's gonna kind of like drive him apart because of that dream that the narrator has about like he sees a ghost and he knows that it's Phaedrus, and then he's like coming after Chris, and then he told that story right before that about how like something happened and the child died. So I feel like Chris is like somehow gonna be in danger or something like that.
And I think that the storms that he also mentions are a bit of a romantic type aspect that Percy incorporates in the story to signify some type of like wrongdoing or something. That something's bad is about to happen or is going to happen throughout the story.
I was kind of surprised how the narrator basically mentioned he was a classical thinker and John was a romantic, but in a way the narrator is also a romantic because when he appreciates nature, or when he goes on his trips, he appreciates nature and he looks at his surroundings rather than focus more on the motorcycle maintenance.
Yeah, with that, it's like super. When I was reading it, it was like super ironic because he talks about how he's like a classical person, but then he like likes his when he's like I don't know. They said that motorcycle maintenance is more like the scientific one, and then motorcycle like riding is like the artistic one or whatever. You like appreciate it, but then when they're riding, John is supposed to be like the person that appreciates it, but he's the one that wants to get there faster. Him and Sylvia want to go super fast, but then they're like, no, like let's slow down and stuff. So it's kind of like contrasting. So I didn't really understand what he was trying to say there.
Well, maybe that's like the whole balance point in the Zen part.
There's a lot of duality, I feel like, in this book. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Zen is, it's like the art of being in balance. Like nature's kind of the whole yin yang thing. So I feel like maybe that's what the protagonist's purpose is in this novel, because he is, like you guys mentioned, he's both classical and also romantic. So maybe it's like a self journey to find his own balance.
I think that also has to do with the viewpoint, the narrator, that it's one point of view. And when you think in your mind, you're always like jumping between ideas. And that's why I think he is kind of interchanging between romantic and classical.
Yeah, I mentioned in my blog post how since it's the narrator, it's first person, so it's only limited to the narrator's mind. So when we're in the journeys, we're only thinking about their thoughts. So Chris could be thinking about something completely different, as can John and Sylvia. But when they're taking their breaks and they're either eating or resting, you get more of a unbiased opinion as you see it for how it is, because there's not much to interpret about having a meal.
That's like the thing also completely different for me, like between Atlas. Like Atlas, we got everyone's thoughts all the time. So, like pretty much everyone was thinking, everyone was doing, because she would switch who to focus on. And here we only go through one person, so we're like everything. We like, what's the credibility? Like we don't know what like another person is thinking, so it's hard to like interpret what they're saying. Pretty much, it's all biased. Yes.
Especially since he has a mental illness, it brings into question the integrity of the narrator.
Yeah.
So you don't know maybe if it's just all in his mind or it's actually true.
I think
that was an interesting twist.
I
Yeah,
think
so
that-
it's like the contrast between like seeing things what they are and seeing things like what they mean. Maybe that's like if it's on his head, it's kind of like mixing those two or something like that.
And there's also a big contrast between John and Sylvia and then the narrator. I think Percy puts that in there to kind of talk about a little bit of the balance and also about like the rural versus like the urban kind of theme that I'm seeing in the book, whereas Percy portrays the more urban, like the worker type people as more of really monotone and boring, and how the country is so much better and how you have like freedom to like roam, whereas the city is very dull and boring.
Something interesting, I'm just going to totally segue. If anybody has any thoughts about the knife metaphor, you know what I'm talking about?
I would have
cutting through reality.
I was really confused about that.
I
wanted to see what everyone else was thinking. Because he mentioned, let's try to find
I
it.
kind of got it as like he was digging deeper and deeper into the questions as Freydis was, and
I'm listening.
with those thoughts, like Freydis is essentially the narrator, as narrator as the narrator does take up all of his thoughts, and I think it's like Kratos' the voice in his head, and he just kind of hallucinates his existence, the Kratos' existence. So with the knife, Kratos was an intellectual, he was a classic person, so he would dig deeper into like his thoughts and everything and just keep analyzing. So I think that's what the narrator is doing right now, is he's analyzing every situation and going deeper and deeper into the mind, I guess.
Yeah, he was like cutting life into manageable pieces, right? That, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was a little confusing. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
Alright.
Good video,
Bye.
bye.
You guys want to make